On March 27th, Nintendo surprised every Zelda fan in the world by announcing that they would be showing off 10 minutes of gameplay, and not only would they do that, but it would be the following day on March 28th. When Eiji Aonuma opened the gameplay footage with his Switch Joy-Cons next to him, and announced that the development on the game that we are all waiting with bated breath to play is completed, with a new variation of the game's theme music playing in the background, I think we can safely say that no one quite expected what was to come next. Today I'll be taking an in-depth look at the gameplay footage that has been shown, and closing off some old theories, as well as taking a really detailed look against what has been shown in trailers and the artbook so far. So let's do it. Let's take a look right now at the latest gameplay footage from May 12th's Tears of the Kingdom. We start at Dueling Peak Stable, or just a little bit before the stable up near Kakariko Village. Link is riding a horse that he's tamed and taking out of the stables, evident by the saddle on the horse. The first thing that strikes me here more than anything is that the game doesn't seem to have improved graphically since Breath of the Wild. This may not be a problem though, although some people may see it as one. Because a game this size on the console we have it on, the Nintendo Switch, it may be that we need to sacrifice graphical capability in order to have a bigger, more expansive game, which is something I'm sure every Zelda fan will be appreciative of. Interestingly here, Link has his feral outfit on. His hair is pulled out of his scrunchie, a green cardigan with golden depictions of triangles emblazoned on it put over a white top that has one of the arms missing, showing off his new Zonai arm, and then what appears to be the two articles of clothing tied together at the waist to form a toga styled attire. He is seen first on the surface and then later in the trailer in the sky. This completely debunks the idea that Link has two forms, or that there are two Links running around. So my long-standing, most hated theory has been confirmed as not happening. Which, if I'm honest, is probably a good thing. Because even though I was sure of it, I was just unclear on how it would work and how messy it may get. The camera pans up a little to show the Dueling Peak stable in the background, while Link travels through a shallow yet large puddle on the floor. In the background is what looks to be a tower, lit up by 4 spotlights underneath. These were shown in a few locations in the last trailer, and now I am 100% that these will be a new form of the Sheikah Towers in Breath of the Wild. They will be used to uncover the surface map, but not the sky or underground, as I think these will be kept separate in terms of uncovering the map. On the right are 2 enemies, of which neither are particularly clear in this trailer. These could well be the new construct enemy that is shown later on in the trailer, or they could be moblins, and fits the design shown of having a weaponized head while also carrying a more customized weapon. Now the camera moves again and we are treated to a sight of a massive cluster of Sky Islands. These are confirmed by Aonuma as being called the Sky Islands, but that's too much for me to have to keep talking about, so I'm still going to call them Skylands. As a side note, anything around Dueling Peak seems to be in ruin. There's clear remnants of buildings that were once proud structures. As we get closer to the stables, we see a group of horses ready to be tamed. These, along with the health gauge at the top of the screen, are showing us that Dueling Peaks will be accessible relatively early in the game. I'm guessing, as per usual in a Zelda game, we start with 3 heart containers, and up to this stage in the game, we've perhaps earned another. Whether this is from a boss battle or the collection of items within shrine-like structures, like how it worked in Breath of the Wild with spirit orbs, is another thing entirely. Those Sky Islands are so high up. They're incredibly far above even the top of one of the peaks, which is amazing. They look incredible, as Aonuma shows off the scope of the game with just one camera angle. As we get closer to the stables, we see someone yelling for help, stating that they need to reach their friend. As we get closer to him, we find that that little person is actually a Korok. It's great to see these guys back, though I hope they form more of the storyline rather than being a collectathon side quest again, with very little payoff. Don't get me wrong, Hestu's gift is some reward, but not much for the amount of effort 900 of these guys made us go through. There's 2 people outside of the stables having what seems to be a conversation of sorts. These are interesting as they're both wearing the same outfits that Impa is seen wearing in the artbook. Their hats, however, are less pointed. I wonder if the hat signifies position within the tribe. Either way, these guys are at least budding Sheikah, and are possibly on some pilgrimage of sorts to help stop the evil under Impa's instruction. We know from the artbook that Impa is on the move in this game, so perhaps the whole of the Sheikah tribe will get involved in staging some kind of fight against Ganondorf's forces. As the camera pans upwards to see the rock falling from the sky, akin to how it does at the end of the last official trailer, we see our first real up-close look at one of the magical swirls. These are completely Zonai and magic, and seeing as we get our answer as to how we get to the skies, though it is mentioned by Aonuma that there are multiple ways to access the skies, these will not be one of them. This is located far too close to an access point for the Skylands for it to also be one. There are also so many of these locations in the game. I've come up with several theories about these, as I've gone through the trailers on this channel, but now I'm back to my very first thoughts. These are shrines, or replacements of shrines from Breath of the Wild. We touch them with our arm, or even potentially lift them back up to the Skylands with one of our new abilities, and they become puzzles, or help to solve puzzles up in the Skylands. With these, I think we are rewarded with the equivalent of Spirit Orbs, and this is how we power Link's health and stamina. While it's quite the same as Breath of the Wild, it will be presented in a slightly different way in this game. So now we see the first ability that Link has, and it's one that we have seen before in a previous trailer. Recall allows Link to effectively rewind time, returning items such as the rock that has fallen from the sky back to its original position. He can ride these to reach the Sky Islands, or use them as weapons in the form of the steel ball back in the second teaser trailer. This will probably replace status as a skill, as this is a much more powerful version of that ability. Talking of replacing, did anyone else notice that the Sheikah Slate powers have been replaced with a food icon? It looks like we have new button mapping, and it looks like we're going to be using the L button to control our abilities. Whether these work the same as Breath of the Wild or whether you need to cycle through them is unanswered, however. Link rides the rock upwards, and as he does we see several gameplay mechanics at work here. First of all, there is this timer. This I presume expires, and once it has expired the item falls back to its final condition before it was recalled. This could be used for puzzles. For instance, let's say we have a double gate scenario. Gate 1 opens when an item is placed on it. Link must move through the gate to proceed, but Gate 2 remains locked until the button is unpressed. Link cancels his ability and it opens the second gate. This could work for a number of puzzles in this way. I think we even see this during this section where Link is riding the giant stone up to the Sky Islands. If the player cancels approximately here, then perhaps he can reach this swirl by using the paraglider from the right height. As Link rises on the stone, we see rudimentary platforms built by the Bokoblin. I still wonder if over time they will build these structures to be larger and more foreboding, if left with no heroic intervention that is. And then we see a real close up of the swirl. There's a rock with a spiral of stone working its way around it, and then the swirl emanates from the centre and up into the sky. I think these are generated by a divine power, one that we will see later in the series and in a video for later on down the line. These rocks seem sizable, and if artwork is anything to go by, perhaps we will go inside of these, like shrines. These seem, judging by the artwork, to be filled with the green magic that the swirls come from, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Link teleported to a mini dungeon, 2 to 3 rooms long, like the shrines, as a test of the hero. As we reach the Skylands, we can see another series of them above us. There are lots of heights and dimensions to this game. Link lands on a building with a swirled pattern roof, and 2 dragons adorning it on opposite sides. The dragons work their way up the building, and it looks as though there's a way in here, but the building from this angle appears to be completely empty. I'm not sure what is here, though it could be a number of things. An enemy gauntlet style arena, or maybe just a treasure chest. The biggest thing though, is that we already have had massive green magic swirls and dragon heads filled with magic. Just look at their eyeballs glow. The Skylands, to me at least, seem to be filled with magic, and that magic appears to be Zonai. Is this confirmation that perhaps the Wind Tribe and the Zonai are one and the same? Or are these lands sacred to the Zonai because they once belonged to the original land of Hyrule? From the top of this building, we see a dragon fly overhead. These guys are going to be so important in this game, and I don't think they're even going to just be reduced to optional bosses. I feel like if we are seeing a time loop in effect, then Farosh, Dinral and Nadrin need to be involved somehow. I mean, their goddess counterparts helped to create the land that they're now trying to save. However, this dragon is none of those 3 dragons. This is a brand new dragon. It is marked completely differently to the other 3, and has almost a completely different shape as well. I'm excited to see just what this dragon or who this dragon is. As we overlook the Skylands, we can see so many different terrain types. There's a wooded area over here, an ice area here, and a water area over here. These waterfalls look amazing. The water in this game has been really improved since Breath of the Wild. On the left, we have the infamous island that got everyone talking back when we saw the second teaser trailer for the very first time. So many people seem to think that this is a tutorial or training area, but this island seems way too foreboding for that, so I just can't see it personally. I think we're more likely to get a boss gauntlet out of this area or something to that effect. Either that or it's going to be a major part of the story, perhaps where Princess Zelda and our mysterious Zonai are located. As Link moves across the Sky Island, there is a circular pattern on the floor. The pattern around the outside is scaled, so this infers a dragon or a snake. I think we are looking at the same symbol as the door that Link pushes open in the first official trailer. This feels to me like it's an Ouroboros. I think this area may well have been a place of worship for dragons, or at least one of the dragons. This is then backed up by the fact that even the stairs are shaped like dragons. We are introduced to a new enemy, a construct. Sorry guys, but I'm going to put my gloating hat back on again. It was believed that for the most part, these guys were on the side of the hero. We've seen one of these before, a giant version in the second teaser trailer. And you know, even then I was convinced that Link would have to fight these. Here we are now, seeing that these are enemies and not friends of the hero. We see these particular creatures in the artwork and know they have a few forms. This one wields a stick. It looks as though they'll aim to pick up the nearest weapon to them if you make them drop their original weapon, something that Breath of the Wild brought to us all those years ago. As Link fights his new foe, there's a building in the background that has been seen all over the artwork. I pointed these out by stating that they seem to be offshoot buildings, coming from staircases that are almost floating. These, we learn later, are in situ more for their ceilings than for the building itself, which, saying out loud, sounds insane. When Link beats this construct, it drops several items. One is a soldier construct horn, and there'll be great uses for that later on. But the most interesting drop here is the Zonai charge. This confirms that the Zonai are in the game, that they've built these robots, and were once, or perhaps still, are taking up residence inside of a Sky Island somewhere. These charges are on page 78 of the artbook, one of the pages that we'll be looking at better in our next artwork leaks video. And it would appear as if these gain and lose charge. I have an idea for what these are used for, and I'll come back to it later on in this video. We jump on now and learn all about Link's second ability, Fuse. Fuse is just amazing. In essence, Fuse allows you to literally combine items in your inventory with items that would be usually absolutely useless. They found a way of making monster drops relevant again, as for instance, you can put together ice chew jelly and arrows to make ice arrows. We now have confirmation that ice arrows, fire arrows, and more likely shock arrows will be in the game, and will be craftable very early in. Fuse can also be used to combine random items that are on the floor. You can take a pitchfork and a long stick to increase its range, or add a boulder to a stick to make a makeshift hammer. This could open so much potential for new weaponry, and we saw some examples of this in the artbook, where we saw on page 131 a lot of swords, infused awkwardly with monster parts. We see a big example played out in front of us of combining key cycles, an item that was almost redundant in Breath of the Wild, to make the homing arrows that we saw in the last trailer. I love these, and love that we will have access to them from the moment that we kill our first keys. You can also combine items with the shield for more defensive or status affecting maneuvers. We see Link with a mushroom on his shield, which then explodes when the enemy comes into contact with it, and it throws smoke everywhere, allowing for a distraction and a stealth kill. This adds some really cool elements into the game as far as combat goes. And could you imagine the other possible effects? I imagine that you'll have some effects that will cause paralysis, poison, or sleep. And you may even see more defensive tactics, like maybe giving a circle effect that sees your defense or health raised when inside of the mushroom spores. There's a load of larger items dotted around too, so that the crafting is made easier. Although I do hope there's a good explanation for the amount of convenient pre-made boat parts being on the floor. As Link continues, the path looks almost serpentine or dragon-like. I love these little extra details to the level design, and it really makes this area stand out as an effigy to the dragons. This area looks a bit like the platform that Link leapt from in an earlier trailer, although I'm not sure that it is the same one. Aonuma next wanted to show off the lake and the new crafting abilities, but I spotted something completely different here. What I saw was a massive cave with a load of billowing smoke coming out from within it, and the tracks above it which are clearly meant to be ridden atop of either using your shield or a cart. Maybe that cart has a Goron symbol on it. If I had to guess, and I definitely hadn't seen the artwork, I'm glad it isn't just around Eldin or Death Mountain province that these tracks exist. They look like great fun. We're using a third ability next, one called Ultra Hand. First of all, I picked up on this symbol here. This symbol changes depending on which ability we are using, and we've seen a couple of these symbols before. The symbol used for recall was used on Link's hand in the delay trailer, and the Ultra Hand symbol? This is on the front cover of the artbook. This is the symbol that I presumed was the Zonai hand trap in Ganondorf, but no, it's actually the symbol for one of Link's abilities, the Ultra Hand ability, and my god, this ability actually looks like it's a bit broken in the best possible way. So we saw in the last trailer that we were able to ride on all forms of mounts, including very basic hot air balloons, cars and aircraft. We now see how that comes together, and it's with an ability that basically lets us glue parts together with Zonai magic. You can take items, multiple by the seams of things, and put them together to move them around at your own disposal, meaning that you can create any number of modes of transport. You can then add fans to them, and with a quick sword strike activate them once they're on your new vehicle. There is a battery gauge for them, which seems to drain quite quickly. And remember earlier we got the item, the Zonai charge, from the constructs? Well, I think that these are basically the power source. You fuse these with the items on the floor to give them an electrical charge. The only problem that I see with this mechanic is that it appears a little clumsy to control. You see here Aonuma actually struggle with picking up the raft before sliding the last log forward. It looks like this could be somewhat frustrating at the best of times. There's also something up with the minimap throughout all of this trailer. We have coordinates now in what seems to be a pretty major change. The Zelda devs don't normally add things to the game unless they are used, so perhaps we will see quests where Link has to find someone using coordinates. Maybe that's something to do with the core rock at the start of this gameplay trailer. As Link crosses the river, he's met by an absent-minded ranger construct. I imagine he's a ranger because he will use more ranged attacks. He was the one that was seen in the artwork before. They're kind of cute for a bright blue automation. The interesting point here though is that the ranger construct seems to be docile and not aggressive. Perhaps the constructs work in different ways for different models of them. Perhaps they're not actually enemies of Link, however they're more tasked with looking after and protecting the Sky Islands. Link passes by now what seems to be a new plant, a stambo. I wonder if this is used for cooking and eating in the same way it was in Breath of the Wild, or if when Link collects it, his stamina is regained instantaneously like within Skyward Sword. As Link puts the boat with the sail together, the wind instantly takes it. I love that they've incorporated the wind physics from Wind Waker here, and seeing Link have to jump quickly to get onto that raft made me smile. Oh, the amount of times I've done things like that in almost every Zelda game. Interestingly, with enough momentum, it looks like the boats can go from floating or sailing to flying, although you'll need to watch the battery gauge. Now we are treated to Link's final ability in the game, and this one actually opens up the most in the game. This ability is called Ascend and will allow you to pass through any ceiling in the game. Any ceiling! We saw this first in the second teaser trailer, and it confused everyone more than anything. But now it's confirmed that it is an ability, and we see Link use it here to phase through an entire mountain. Wow! This is the ultimate shortcut maker. Speedrunners are going to adore this. It looks like when Link activates this, it shows a green panel on the ceiling, an area that he can hook onto in essence. In the art book, there was a building with water above it and 5 of these panels. I think maybe we phase through it in order to solve the 5 water related puzzles before facing a boss. I think this in the book is a rendition of the water temple, and Ascend will be used throughout it. Is that a cooking pot I see? As if we needed more uses for our key size. We will still be able to make soups and elixirs in this game. We need that sweet sustenance. Enemies seem to have some fused weapons too, as this construct has a door attached to a log or a stick. It waves it around and generates wind, so it acts like a giant paddle. Does the enemy have this weapon to begin with, or did it just find it laying around? I'm unclear, but it's cool that they can wield fused weapons also. As Link is blown away from the side of the island, we see the sheer scope of this world, and holy hell, this map looks massive. If they had indeed sacrificed graphical output for this, then this was the right choice. There looks to be so much to do, and so many secrets to uncover. Like, what is this mountain here that's surrounded by lava? And what are these glyphs that we've seen multiple times? On that note, this one is a new shape for anyone that hasn't seen the art book. This one looks like a scorpion, and I almost fully expect to have to face a giant Zonai scorpion, and a giant Zonai elephant somewhere in the game. For anyone that has seen it though, page 43 shows an image of just this glyph. They have to be something important. I think that there are 6 of these glyphs, and I think that these 6 lead to 6 dungeons, and at the end of those 6 dungeons, we collect 6 tears of the kingdom. Wait, why 6 and not 7? Because Princess Zelda or Hylia, depending on what form she has by this point in the game, has the 7th. That's my prediction for this game, and I will explain it all in a future theory video. We have another tower on the right, and now I'm sure, with just how frequent that they're shown, whilst not being quite everywhere on the map, that these are a form of Sheikah Tower, just with new fancy lights and new structures. Death Mountain looms in the background now, and as Link speeds his descent back to the ground, our Numa effectively closes the video off. There was so much cool stuff in this video alone, and then we got another reveal, the long awaited Tears of the Kingdom Switch OLED model. This looks really great, and my favourite part of this is the dock. But just 5 seconds before this, we got a more filled in logo. The Ouroboros entwine again in a circle, which then gets filled with a golden image of the Skyloft crest and the Triforce. This for me was probably the biggest wow moment in the trailer, as it confirms for us that the Triforce will play a part in Tears of the Kingdom, unlike Breath of the Wild, and that the game is connected to Skyward Sword. It's too early to tell for sure yet, but maybe this game really is a time loop back to Skyward Sword. With that, the trailer ends, and so does this breakdown of the gameplay trailer. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I have, and if you have, please remember to like the video and subscribe for more content in the future. If you have any ideas about anything within this trailer, please get involved in the comment section below. I love hearing your thoughts, and this community is really growing to be something awesome. Thank you all so much. Bye!